dementia residents can function in the present moment. They can eat their lunch, but then they have no memory of having eaten it because of present memory loss. So in the same way, direction orientation and finding their room. They can go to their room, but then to try and remember where it was, present memory prevents them from being able to do that. Now, this is a massive hindrance because finding one's room in a dementia facility is a really important skill. If you can't find your bedroom, then you're destined to, circuit the never-ending corridor until someone sees that you're lost and then hopefully has the time to take you back to your room. So it can be very distressing and disturbing if you want to go to the bathroom, if you want to lie down and have a rest, if you need some time out and you can't find your room. And indeed, by the time you get there, you're exhausted and wiped out. So being able to find one's room is a really necessary skill in a dementia unit. And I actually worked with a dementia resident on this. She was a competitive sportswoman in her day. So she called the direction orientation training or finding her room. She just used to call it the training. When am I having my training? And she was incredibly disciplined because her present memory was extremely poor. Her ability to find her room was practically non-existent, but her willpower and discipline was very high. And so I just thought that there may just be a chance that we can get there with it because she had such high motivation. So I drew in every physiotherapy skill I could muster, navigation skill, direction orientation skill, ergonomics, you name it, signposts, the lot. And eventually the main things were to signpost. The main signpost was actually the nurse's station. That's the central point that everyone knows about in a dementia unit. So navigating from the nurse's station as to where the room is. The second thing is being able to read your name on the door. Very important. Glasses to be able to read and a sign, big enough letters with the name and the number of the room. So when the person goes along, they can read the names and find their room. And indeed, lots of practice. Back, forth, and encouragement. So this woman was incredible. Like we would spend a good 45 minutes back and forward. Her room was, I think, 6th on the right from the nurse's station. So not too far, but easier than some residents had their rooms, 15th on the right, which was a long way to have to navigate their way along. But she could read. She did have prescription glasses. She could read the names on the door and she'd just go along and read them all. And I had to encourage her, turn to the right, read the door, turn your head to the right, read the door, because otherwise she'd just forget and she'd just keep walking straight ahead without looking to the right to find her room. It was endless, really. And I think it took about 2 months of training before we finally got to the point where she said, am I getting there? Will I make it? Have I found it? She tried so hard, and this one day I was able to say, yes, you have found it. Read the door. She read her name. Yes, this is mine. So she walked in happy as Larry. And then after that, the family started to come on board with doing practice training. And the main thing that helped is when the nurses and the carers came on board as well with the training, because of course they're there all day, every day. So once they'd picked up on this, they'd just say, Mrs. Whoever, 6th on the right, your room number, And so they'd give her a little notice on a piece of paper, which she'd carry with her name and the number of her room. And she'd go along and read all the doors until she found her own. And eventually she was able to find her room about 80% of the time comfortably. And then from there, other relatives realised this could be done and started to train their relatives to find their room and put big signs on their doors so that they could read them. And it all became, in the end actually, there were very few dementia residents who couldn't find their rooms because of all this training and help. And even the dementia residents who did have good orientation would sometimes help their neighbour find their room because they were up to being able to do that. So that's the way things can work, and garner a snowball effect in a dementia unit. It takes time. The initial progress is slow because, you know, you're not sure whether it will work, what the result's going to be. Everyone's not on board then because it's a new thing, obviously. But once people do get on board and can see that it can be done, and the relief it gives the person, because then they can go to the meal and then they know, okay, where my room is, so I can go down and have a rest after lunch or go to the bathroom or whatever I have to do. Otherwise, what often happens is people just stay stuck in the lounge all day because they don't know how to get to their room. It's too distressing to find it, and staff haven't always got the time, except at toileting rounds, to show someone where their room is. So this is one of the most valuable things you can do to help, you know, this. And this particular resident who I worked with said, we didn't realise what we were getting ourselves into. At least I didn't, but I'm thankful that I made the effort. So they considered that the work was not just for themselves, but also others in the unit and others coming on with dementia to be able to help them. So I've written about all this in both books, The Resident's Voice from a Dementia Unit and The Resident's Rise from a Dementia Unit, both on Amazon and on my website, pietavalentine.com. So the first half is like reading a novel on the residents in the unit and everything they have to cope with and put up with, and all their trials and challenges and successes. And the second half, all the techniques of which I've gone through in these multitudinous videos on the techniques, positive practical techniques. It always has to be positive and practical, and the effort does need to be put in. But when it is, then these people with dementia in dementia units can receive so much help. So thank you for your likes and your subscriptions, and please pass on. Thank you.